this. What skills do we need, right? So I actually took this paragraph complete because I thought it was very interesting. I'm just going to read it out for you guys. So it says, still, experts say trying to predict whether the coronavirus forced experiment, which is exactly what it is, with widespread online learning will fundamentally change what skills districts search for in teachers is a folly at this stage, which means no one knows, right? I think that anybody who says, here's what's going to happen after this is either lying or deluded, says John Watson, founder of the Evergreen Education Group, an educational consulting firm. And I think he's right. I think we have to figure this out along the way. So this is something that we are definitely having to learn on the spot skills for technology, for digital literacy, for us, for our students, and for our parents. But I think at the end of the day, we have two things that are important to remember. Tech equity is going to be a factor of what decisions and what skills we need as teachers, right? And it says that there are some situations where it's not worth the investment in time, where we could also just be innovative and find alternative ways of teaching rather than going 100% virtual or 100% digital. So let's keep that in mind as we move forward. Now, and to connect, I mean, I think that human connection is essential through all of this. So being able to find ways to connect with each other and to still feel that we're human and that we're part of a community. So I think that's essential as well. Now starting to wrap up my part so we can move on to the panel. A lot of things that have happened throughout the pandemic. I think as teachers, we have to see what our mindset is at this moment. So first, I think that we have to find ways where we're all overwhelmed. So seeing how we can reduce the workload for ourselves and for our students and focus on the learning of it. This article I thought had an interesting point of view on that. Second, no person is an island. So like I told you guys before, we are a teaching tribe. And if you talk to teachers on Facebook, I've seen beautiful conversations between teachers on groups and different places where I'm like, we're all supporting each other. So we are not alone. Third, everyone thinks they can't before they actually can. A lot of times we think, oh no, we can't do this or we can't do that. But at the end of the day, once we have to, we do it. Right? And just remember to mind the gap. Be aware of what your students have and don't have access to so we can support them all the way. Now, to wrap up this section, I just want each one of us to think about our realities, because in our classrooms come in many different shapes, sizes with different digital components or not digital components, and each classroom has its own characteristics. These are just some of the ones that I can think of, but I was telling the team earlier, and I said, well, you know what, any combination of these characteristics are going to make a completely different classroom setting, right? So we have connectivity, access to devices from our students and teachers, the ages of our students, the type of education, is it formal or informal, like in a school system, or is it part of an informal education such as a language center, group sizes, the duration of the lessons, the access to software or platform, something like Google Drive, it's Google or Google Classroom or even Edmodo, any of these platforms. Do we have access to them? Do we know how to use them? Are they made for our classroom setting? Assessment, which has been an essential part of this, the percentage of how many activities are synchronous and how many are asynchronous, and then kind of going into just general terms of, is this education then being blended online, remote, distance, right? So I think each classroom is different. And as we move forward in this reality that we have to face right now, I think we all have to kind of question ourselves. What's the best learning environment for you and your students? Because I think this is definitely not the time to push ourselves, to overdo ourselves with tons of learning different tools and pushing all of those tools on our students. We do have to take it step by step, and I think focus on the most important thing is just keep teaching. We're all teachers. That means we're doing this out of the passion. I don't think anybody here is a millionaire because they're teaching, right? So I think we're doing this because we love it. So if we do, and that's the case, then just keep doing what you're doing. Support students and parents through this. Keep that human touch to it. Get back into the groove. I know it's difficult, because we have a groove in the classroom where we have a routine, we have like a classroom style with our students and our family in the schools. So we have to kind of find that groove again in our current situation. And remember, you are doing the best that you can. I know sometimes it feels challenging and it feels difficult, but you are doing the best that you can. And finally, I think stay connected, right? As long as you're connected to a community of practice or a community of learning with other teachers, I definitely think that you'll always find a solution and you'll always find a way to move forward. So I just wanted to leave you guys with that message. And with that being said, I'm going to wrap up my part, which was kind of just contextualizing all of us on what we've been living for the past couple of months, or for those of you that have been living it just a tad longer. And now we're going to focus on what's next. So I'm going to invite two panelists that are going to be with me again in this part. Thank you guys for joining in. Now in this part, I think we can all participate, but we are going to be hearing three people speak. I'm going to be moderating. You guys already heard a little bit who I am. So I've been teaching for over 19 years. I've done a little bit of everything in education, from project management to teacher training, mentoring, and private and public sector for teachers. And I founded ELT Think Tank on just because I felt that teachers needed another space, another way to keep learning and to do it in a way where we are a community and we are a tribe. We're going to have two more people joining us. So Rodrigo Mejia, he works with me in ELT Think Tank. I would not be anywhere with ELT Think Tank without this man. He has been teaching as well for 20 years. We've known each other for about 10 years now. He has experience in ESL teacher for general and business English. He's a program designer, academic coordinator, and he's also been working in public and private projects for a while now. And we have Lily Beidi Manrique joining us from Cali, Colombia. She is the co-founder and director of Colegio La Fontaine. She is an English teacher and a social entrepreneur. She has a BA in English and French and an MA in social innovation. And she's just an awesome human being. So let's introduce these guys. We'll get them. You guys can open your mics and turn on your cameras, please. And the dynamic of what we're going to do is we've set up 4 questions. We're going to share the question with everyone. We're each going to give our opinion because we do come from different backgrounds and have taught different students. So we're going to do it like that. And then, of course, if anyone has anything to add, you guys can join in the chat or just kind of raise your hand so we can open your mic, okay? So welcome, Rodri. How are you doing today?
Hey, everybody. Well, good. I can't complain. It's been awesome. I've loved the chat so far. So kudos for that.
Thank
And
you.
just, anxious to get started, see what we
All
can come up with
right.
today.
All right, perfect. And Lily, how are you doing?
Hi there, everyone. So glad to join you today.
I'm
Can you
really
hear me?
glad to have you. Yes,
Okay.
we can hear you. Perfect.
Okay.
Loud and clear. All right, guys. So the idea with them is that we're going to ask the question. They're going to give their perspectives on it. And then if anybody wants to jump in, they can. So let's go with our first burning question. So these are questions that we came up with when we said, well, maybe, these are things that they would want to discuss and want to kind of learn more about and get our perspectives and maybe get yours and see if it's, as a community, we can find solutions or answers to move forward. So our first question, guys, is how will schools or institutions cope with the aftermath of the pandemic? So who would want to start? Want to go, Rodri or Lili?
Lily, go ahead.
All right, ladies
Okay.
first.
Well, I think we weren't really ready for this. I mean, I'm glad some schools already had their platforms. They were working on Moodle and like they had all these things going on, and that's amazing. But talking about the public sector and low income schools, I don't think we were that ready. So the question is, how will schools cope with the aftermath of the pandemic? I think we've been trying to do it on the way, on the run, and I think we have to go back to what's essential. Like we have to ask ourselves, maybe was it necessary to have in our schedule so many schools, so many subjects? Was it necessary to work on independent subjects instead of project-based learning. Um, so because this is a race of time, like we need to be careful of how we use time now, because we went from having students 4 or 5 or 8 hours a day at our school, to now having, you see, I'm at my school right now, empty schools, and maybe having meetings with our students 1 or 2 or 3 hours at the maximum a day. So now we can't waste time. I think that that's something that's going to help us cope with the aftermath of the pandemic, is we need to be mindful of time. I think that comes to my mind right now. Maybe later
Lily,
on I can add on.
can you do me a favor? Can you tell people a little bit about the context
Yes.
of your school? Because I just think it's such a beautiful project, and I think that you should definitely share that with everyone before we move forward, so that they know where your perspective of teaching is coming from. Go for it.
Okay. Yes. Although I'm a school founder, and it's a private school, we serve a community that I bet it's similar to many of your schools. Like if you are public school teachers, I work in a non-privileged area of Cali, which is called Siloé. People in Medellin might find it similar to Comuna 13. And like me, there are many teachers around the world and in Latin America who have to cope with having families who don't have internet access, they don't have devices, they don't even have digital literacy. So that's the challenges I'm facing here. Even though it's a private school, I think we're all in the same boat here. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, Lily, for sharing. All right, Rodri, what's your take on it?
Well, personally, I agree with Lily in her particular situation. I love the fact that she has the capacity to reflect on time management as a priority. I love the fact that it has actually increased thought on what type of methodologies are time efficient, are meaningful, and can actually be employed after this pandemic passes. Because in my situation, it has actually potentialized all the projects in my sector. In my sector, I actually work with bilingual projects, but bilingual and tech projects. So for us, not having that tech issue has just meant going from 50% of the audience to 100% of the audience, because they didn't have any time before the pandemic, and now during the pandemic they actually have more than enough time. So we have actually had the contrary. We have situations where we would normally have 2,000 students sign up, and now we have months of 27,000 students signing up for our programs. So instead of going, oh no, we can handle this, ours just went into overload, and we had to expand our technology, our capacity, our installed capacity, meaning people on board for project management, academic leaders, teachers, and everything. So in our contrast, it wasn't about time management, but rather about resource management. So it's actually pretty cool to understand that that reflection that Lily has brought to the table is something that I have to bring to my table, because my table doesn't have that perspective as a priority right now. But it can be and will be part of the future of any school or any institution, because let's just think about this for a minute. If this happens or will happen or extends or just changes everything we know, that means that the old normal will never be the new normal. So even if we try to make it similar to what we had, there will be consequences, there will be impacts, there will be slight changes that can always be in light of improvement or efficiency or reach or different types of objectives that we all have. So I think that it's actually pretty interesting that we can go through all the spectrum from no tech to high tech, and we've all had issues. I mean, and I consider myself in part of one of the areas that we were prepared, and I quote, we thought we were, which we weren't. We were prepared, like I said, for what we were normally dealing with, but we didn't really expect that avalanche of attention, which is not the kind of attention that we're used to, because it was unexpected, and it just brought a lot on our tools.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And I think those are two very different perspectives. So I want to kind of wrap up what you guys have said and add just my 2 cents. And if anybody else has an opinion, of course, you guys can write it here in the chat. So wrapping up, I took some notes. I think something really interesting that Lily said before was just the types of methodology. So she says, well, who says that teaching each subject independently is the way to go? Right. And I think that's excellent because it, like we said before, it is questioning us into pushing ourselves to that boundary of, well, has traditional education, even before coronavirus, been working, right? So if not, then what should we do, right? What should we do about it? Then, yeah, it's forcing that reflection, exactly. Time management, I think, is essential because we are short on time because it has been an emergency situation that we have to deal with, and it's increasingly difficult to try to find like just the right solution. And I think that's important. Like the solution for every classroom, for every school will be different, and once you find that groove that I was talking about earlier, it'll make the world a difference. Resource management, I think, is another thing. Even though we were prepared, I think you're right. For example, some universities were very digital and they offered online programs, so they did have the setup for it and the resources for it. But it's different to cater to half of your university online than it is to cater to 100% of your university online. And that other 50% in terms of students' digital skills maybe weren't prepared. So I think that coping with the aftermath of the pandemic will basically take us to innovation, will basically taking us to reshaping and reinventing ourselves. And I think at the core of this, it's how we also reinvent ourselves in our classroom, right? Do you guys want to add anything before we move on to the
Beautiful.
next question?
I would like to add something.
Sure.
There is a book called Create or Die
Ooh.
by Oppenheimer.
Uh-huh.
And that's basically what we have to do. I mean, either schools create and reshape their curriculum and their practices, or they die on the way, because this forces us somewhere to direction, to action, and like project-based learning, flipped classrooms, I don't know, the use of technology. That's not new. That's been happening for the last 20 plus years. But we were kind of blind, and we were like, I don't see it. I don't see that happening. The future is not now. But like we open our eyes and we realize that the future is now. And if we don't take action, we will see many schools closing, because people are looking for something else as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think students
So
are,
yes, students.
Mhm.
Exactly, students.
Yep. And that goes again also for like informal education. Because if you're thinking about a language center, for example, one thing is formal education where I have to take my kids to school. But what about informal education where I just simply want to study an English course? So I don't want to study online. I'd rather go here. I'd rather do that. So how do we get them there? So here Javier is saying, I'm not very sure whether universities and schools have gone online ever since all of this started. I think that they're mainly doing distance learning, which is different. Yes, thank you. Okay, Javier, this is super important. And I think that this is something that we should mention here as well. So there is a difference, a huge difference between online learning, distance learning, and remote learning. What we are living right now is emergency remote learning. This was an emergency, and we're basically saying the house is on fire, put water on it, right? And if we're doing that, obviously we cannot do the essentials of online learning, which is a plan that's designed around a curriculum and structured activities for a mid or long term. So I completely agree with you, Javier. Online, this is not online yet. We wish we were online, right? And I think that's so true. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, perfect. So we're going to move on to our next question. So let's go here. We have, can students learn the same online than in a classroom? So let's see. What do you guys think? So Lili went first on this one. Rodri, it's over to you first.
All right. Can they? Yes. Should they? Maybe not. Because I think that this situation has opened up a whole new realm of skills that were talked about in a classroom, but were expected to be developed outside the classroom. So I'm going to go into hard skills and soft skills, and I'm going to go into my parent suit right now, because besides being a teacher, I am a parent. So right now I'm going to take my daughter. My daughter's a 7-year-old. She's in second grade. And I've seen her mature in a different way ever since the quarantine started. I mean, because I would never witness her in class and her personality changes during the class. And, she's like the perfect learner because she would go and come back and everything, and she would enjoy it. And I've seen her mature from the first couple of weeks of struggling to use the computer, now getting used to using the computer, to dominating the computer. So for me, they can, but they are learning it in a different way. So it's a lot of transformation. And I'm going to go into the SAMR model here, because even though it's not intentional, things are changing. So some things are being augmented, some things are being transformed, and some things are just being suppressed. And we have a lot of new things coming into play. Like, for example, the digital literacy. Previously, it wasn't intentional to teach a student how to use Microsoft Paint. Excuse me. So right now, I've seen her do it, and through that, she's been being taught the whole world of the computer, which was a very hard task at the beginning, because it was 30 computers for the whole school. Now that we have this opportunity, it's changing everything. So it's not like just a 1 = 1 kind of formula, but it's a 1 = 1 plus something else kind of formula. I know that the schools are prioritizing, schools are actually optimizing what they teach. And as Lily said before, you have to start selecting what you really think is core. Your real important information. Is that note-taking skill really that important, or is it that transfer skill more important than the note-taking skill? So I've seen a lot of the transitions being taken into consideration, and I've seen teachers adapt, because while I'm here, as you see me, I'm on my computer, I have my daughter right in front of me on hers. So I actually observe all her classes all day. So I'm actually doing my own experiment with her, because I see the way the teachers can adapt and have adapted material, activities, dynamics. I've seen PE classes, physical education classes, in my living room being done phenomenally, because they've adapted to everything that's around the house. They've tried to use everything that the students have at home. It's not go get this, and this. It's like using a lot of different tools that previously were not considered tools. Some are toys, right? So it's the mindset of the teacher. And like Lily said before, it's like having that perseverance, is saying, I need to get this done.
Yeah.
It's
And I think
the
that's
how that's
super
changing.
important.
So it's awesome.
I think that's super important, is how do we get this done and how do we get there? Okay, we know we have to get there. How? That's it. All right, Lily, what's your take on it?
I believe we have to go back to thinking of learning, because we thought of learning as something that used to happen at schools, in a building, right? But learning happens all the time. It happens when a child is cooking with his mom at home, or when they are fixing a car, a toy car. Like, learning can happen anytime. And I think families, they thought maybe they were like, like in the past, I think like in the past, but like families thought that
in the past 2 months ago.
I know. But sadly, like, I have to admit that families thought that schools were parking lots for their children. They brought their children and then they picked it up after 8 hours. And now they are in charge, and they are faced to the reality that learning can happen at home as well. So I believe that as far as content, actually children can learn more content on their own, because content is out there, knowledge is out there. So right now, what we teachers do is we are facilitators. We help them think critically of the content they choose. But as far as building content, I believe that now they can even learn more on their own than coming to school and getting knowledge from the teachers. And there is more learning happening at home. There is soft skills, social skills, there is communication skills. So many parents, they tell me, should I pay the monthly fee at your school because I believe that my child is not learning the same at home. Parents worry about that, and I tell them, yes, they are learning. I mean, even though they're not coming to a classroom, even though they're not filling out their notebooks with lots of notes, they are learning, and we have to be open to what type of learning they are having now.
Yep, agreed. And I think this whole before coronavirus, after coronavirus, and I think what you've said there is essential. Like, it's critical thinking, it's building soft skills, it's building other skills that for life skills that these people are going to need moving forward. So for sure. Great. Okay, guys, thank you so much for that one. Now let's move on to the next one and see what you guys think about this one. So it says, what are the skills they are developing in this new learning environment? So I think we've actually touched on that in the answer that you just gave. So that's perfect. So I'm going to skip this one just because I think this is literally what we just said, unless you guys want to add something.
Or maybe, I just want to add the 4 C's of the 21st century
yes,
skills,
please do.
which is communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity.
Yep.
Like if we focus on that, we're in the future now.
Yeah, and I think that's so important because I think that we are in the future right now. So everything is before coronavirus and after coronavirus, and right now we're living the future that everyone used to talk about, right? Forcefully, but we're doing it, right? Okay, so then let's go to the next question, and it says, how could we reshape the way we teach? This is the question that we're all here for. So what are your opinions? And then I also want to hear from the other teachers what you guys think as well. Go for it. We'll start with Lili, go with Rodri. I'll wrap things up, and then we'll wrap up for today. Go ahead.
I'm going to be short on this one, but I think the way we should teach is thinking of the future. The statistics say from the World Economic Forum that 65% of the children in primary school today, they will hold jobs that don't currently exist. So we really, really have to think of an education for the future. And I think if we have our mindset in the future, whatever we come up with is going to be beneficial for our kids.
Perfect. Thank you, Lili, for that. Rodri.
Well, I'm going to start off by just saying it's the now factor that you guys were talking about in the previous answer that actually gives me hope to answer this one, because I had never thought of a moment where education could have like a pause. I mean, we were all trying to constantly catch up and see these master courses and doctorate courses and all the ELT evolution factors in it. And now that we have the opportunity to say, okay, there is a pause, and beside the pause, there's a silence. So that means voices can be heard. That means proposals can be considered. That means that, ideas can be shared. So I think that it's been an awesome opportunity to actually pause, reflect, think, and actually plan, not react, plan. So I think that's what I would say. Instead of reshaping because of the reaction to the pandemic, it's an opportunity to reshape it through planning of the rest of the future in it. So it's a very good moment to actually think of the past, what worked, what did actually get us to the point that we felt that satisfaction, we felt the rewarding part of it. And like Lily said, we see the progress in it. But I mean, the 21st century skills are now to be renamed the new skills, which are the now skills. So this is the today skills coming to life. I mean, 21st century sounds like something like in the future, but it's not. So for me, that concept, everything that we've talked about just sums up into say it's time to plan something new, but not reacting. It's taking everything into consideration. Mm-hmm. Is internet the solution? Is the cell phone the solution? Is a mix? Is it blended? Is it autonomous? Is it synchronous? Is it asynchronous? It gives us a lot of different concepts. And like we said before, this is the first time that online learning has been questioned. Because now we know that online learning is not just one concept, it's 4. It's remote, it's asynchronous, it's synchronous, it's blended, and but it all has online content. So making this evident to everyone and making everyone saying it digitally literate forcibly has made it easier for us to be able to plan a future where tech is included, is not included, is complemented with, or included in an academic plan. Previously, we were only guided by content. Now it's
Mm-hmm.
content and medium. So I just love the fact that in the future, in any of our plans, there will be a tool column, there will be a medium column that involves the content and the transference.
I think what I like about what you both are saying is just that there's hope, right? There is hope. And I definitely think that if us as educators take that first step with hope and kind of see with that vision of what we want the future to be in education and what we can do right now about it, because we have this opportunity to reshape education, which we've never really had. Because it's always like everyone said, yeah, we should reinvent, we should do this, we should do that. But there's never been that break, right, of saying, okay, because this pandemic is happening, the after coronavirus will lead us to that change that we wanted and that people have spoken about for so long. I mean, you guys remember the Sir right? Robinson, is it? I always forget his name. Sir Ken.
Yeah.
Sir Ken Robinson.
Sir
Yeah.
Ken Robinson.
Sir Robinson. Sir Ken Robinson. I mean, how long ago was this? And he's talking about how education and how
Changing
schools and how
paradigms, and he's been saying
he's been saying it for so long. And I know there's many people who have been saying it even before him. So this has given us that point. So just to kind of wrap up, guys, first I want to thank Lily and Rodrigo for giving us their insights, their experiences, because I think that that helps a lot for us to hear other teachers and be like, oh yes, this is happening to me, or this could help me. But I think at the end of the day, what we have to figure out is that we can reshape education one classroom at a time, right? And our classrooms come first. So just to kind of wrap up for today, then I wanted to share this with you guys. The fact is that given the challenges we face, education doesn't need to be reformed. It needs to be transformed. The key to this transformation is not to standardize education, but to personalize it, to build achievement on discovering the individual talents of each child, to put students in an environment where they want to learn and where they can naturally discover their true passions. So this is actually said by Sir Ken Robinson. And again, this is an opportunity that we can seize. So hopefully we're looking towards the future with that hope, right, of what's to come and what we can do with this. Okay. Yeah, you guys want to say something? You're both like,
I just have
wait.
one little thing to say.
Go.
that I think that the solution lies in each one of us, because every one of us has a one-off solution to our current status. So it's just not to be afraid of being different to solve this kind of situation. And I want to bring Lily to light, because it's her light that gives me this inspiration, because she saw her current status and she solved it with her one-off solution. And I congratulate you, Lily, on that, because I know the effort has been very well used. And it's exactly the example I wanted to use, because how else can you solve a local problem? You can't just, adapt. You have to transform. You have to actually put in your little 2 cents and have the community as a part of the solution. So for me, it's a one-off for every single situation.
Lily, you wanted to add something?
No, I just wanted to say that I read the book Escuelas Creativas by Sir Ken Robinson, and he gives a lot of examples of teachers who have been doing wonderful things to regarding the use of technology, flipped learning, and all this kind of creativity in the classroom. So it's a great book to be inspired on new ways that which have been happening already
for a while. That's what I was gonna add.
we didn't really see it.
I love that.
And maybe I would just like to wrap up with the English subject that many schools are not taking seriously, especially in preschool and primary school. So this is a call for the public school system. If they see this video, or or other schools who are not teaching English from the very first grade levels. This is an invitation that children can learn to speak English from an early age. And if we
Yes.
give them English, that's also a knowledge of the future, of now. So they really need it because English is the language of communication, of information. And by being bilingual, they will have access to all this information out there.
Yes, yes, yes. I totally agree. I think preschool education and young learners are that's where it should start, and that's where we should have an important focus. And I think just to kind of finish up for today, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Rodrigo and Lili for being here with us and for sharing their points of view. For you guys for sharing your points of view in the chat. I definitely think that the reshaping of the education after coronavirus is in our hands, and we just have to try to think outside of the box, read those books, watch those videos of people who are already reinventing education around the world, and get inspired by what they're doing. Pick and choose the things that you guys can also do in your communities, and also just finally know that you're not alone. So for those of you that don't know who ELT Think Tank is, we are a teaching community for teachers by teachers, and the idea of what we do is when we have this community, our purpose is to be able to develop teacher competencies, to have or support academic administrative procedures with the focus of creating like relationships and alliances that help us to have a real impact on learning. So with your help, hopefully we can continue to achieve this and open more spaces like this for people to join in on the conversation. These are all alliances that we have at ELT Think Tank, because one of the things that we firmly believe in is how we can create that community that just makes us that much stronger. So you're not an island, you are part of this teaching tribe, or in our case, ELT thinkers, as we call our community. So the last invitation is just for you guys to be part of that community. So we do have a WhatsApp group. Our WhatsApp group is a community based on having people just join in, ask questions. The teachers answer your own questions. So it's exchange of ideas, of tools and strategies that really help teachers feel that they're not alone, okay? And you can follow us on social media as well, just to keep track of what we're doing and what if we're gonna have any more conferences or things like that. We will continue to have ELT lounges twice a month. So it'll be the first week of the month and the third week of the month. And our ELT lounge is basically this. We touch on different topics, we get everybody to participate, and we try to support our teachers to finding solutions to the realities that they're facing right now. Even before coronavirus, we were all facing challenges in our classrooms. So it's just continuing that conversation with the reality that we have to face. So thank you guys so much for joining in. I don't know if anybody has any final comments, but that's what we prepared for you today. Thank you, Rodrigo and Lily, and thank you everybody for joining. All right. So
Thank
guys,
you, Tatiana and Rodrigo, for inviting me today.
no, we really
And
wanted to have your
congratulations on the
perspective.
wonderful job you're doing.
I
Thank
thank
you.
you, Lily. Lily is she is a teacher in arms. I love her. She really is someone that I admire. She's an awesome human. So thank you for all the the great work that you're doing in Cali. I know that a lot of families are benefit from it, and hopefully we can spread that to other communities later on. So let's see what we can do together. All right, guys. It was
All
wonderful
right.
seeing you all. Thank you for joining in. Bye.
Bye. Bye, Rodrigo.
Bye, Lily. Take care. Thank you guys for
You
coming.
too. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.